Welcome, fight fans, to episode 21 of the Hooks in MMA podcast. We've got an extremely unique episode tonight. 4 guests on tonight's show, and we believe this could be a Guinness World Record, guys. We've got 2 guests fighting each other tomorrow night on the Bellator card, and then we got our other 2 guests fighting Saturday night on the UFC Fight Night. I can't think of any other podcast that has done this, so you really want to stick around for this one. We can't wait. So coming up, first of the guests that we'll announce are Daniel Drake Weichel versus Emmanuel El Matador Sanchez. They're the co-main event tomorrow night, Bellator 252 in the featherweight quarterfinals. You better tune in for that because whoever wins is moving on, and it's going to be a great little round robin tournament here. Saturday night, we've got Alex, the Great White Morono versus Rhys, Skeletor McKee. They're fighting on the undercard this weekend, so you better tune in to that. And obviously, starting things off with hot headline news, we're looking back to Saturday night's action. Teixeira with a crazy finish and win over Santos. We're going to be breaking that down, getting some thoughts from our experts here. We're going to be touching on some of these big matchups coming up. I know one is potentially Dillashaw versus Corey Sandhagen, and that'll be a great one to follow and hopefully get booked looking into the new year. We're going to be breaking down Bellator 252 tomorrow night, which is headlined by Pitbull versus Carvalho in that featherweight tournament. And then, as always, getting ahead of that book, we've got easy lines looking ahead to UFC Fight Night. Paul Felder coming out of early retirement versus RDA. So, kicking things off, no Adam this week. Let's start it off, Zoni. What do you think of last weekend's Fight Night card?
Yeah, again, like we talk week to week. Thanks, Ben, by the way. We talk week to week on whether these cards are a little bit watered down. When you go week to week, obviously the roster gets expanded out. And last week, from top to bottom, pretty good card. I think better than what we have this week going on. My big thing is, you got to watch out for some of these undercards. We talk about like Dana White Contender Series. There's a lot on the line. Guys are going for finishes. The undercards are extremely underrated, and every single fight on the undercard last weekend was a finish. It was a fantastic way to start off the card and kick off the main card. Great overall, exciting card from top to bottom. And it started off at the beginning. I think it was 6 straight finishes. Getting into the main card though, obviously, Teixeira, one of the most underrated guys in the league. He is, over 40. A lot of guys overlook him. Does he have that speed? Does he have the quickness? He found a way to beat Santos, who obviously, almost beat John Jones. The problem with that, a huge long layoff coming off a major surgery. It's really hard to get back up in there against a tough guy like Teixeira. I maybe would have liked to see him fight somebody in the middle of the top 15 first, but he was deserved that shot against a guy like Teixeira. He got that rust off, but wasn't able to survive, and Teixeira finished him. So overall, impressed by Teixeira. Do they give him Blachowicz next? Do they give him, another top guy next? I'm not sure. We'll see what happens. It looks like Adesanya and Blachowicz will be for the title, but there's a few different matchups maybe we can talk about that Teixeira could get next. But overall, pretty impressed by that card.
Yeah, I was really impressed by Glover, obviously, in the main event there. I mean, what it really showed was obviously his toughness, but, you don't go to the ground with him, right? That's what these guys are making mistakes with him. And Santos was having a ton of success on the feet. And I think, as I said before, I think in our group chat there, that showed the fight IQ difference there. I think that performance against John Jones was a little bit too long lasting in our minds, and we were kind of focused a little bit too much on that and forgot a little bit about Glover there in that situation. So really impressed by Glover there. I think Santos has all the skills. I mean, he really does. He's so quick for that division and still so powerful, but he's got to, stick to the game plan. and be able to, you know, continue it out throughout the fight, right? So, but yeah, Glover, I think he can almost hold out. I think almost like, you know, wait for like whoever wins Adesanya and Jan, you know, he fights the winner of that. Or like if Jan wins, maybe Glover, I mean, which is pretty unlikely, but let's say Jan wins, Glover fights him. Or even if Jan loses, he fights Glover, or he fights, yeah, those two fighters still, right? So I think Glover's going to fight Jan, I think, next, no matter what, pretty much. But at least that's what it looks like to me at this point in that division. But yeah, no, that's kind of what stuck out to me in terms of that fight there.
Just to throw in quick before Josh gives his analysis, I'd like to see, based on timelines, if I'm trying to think. Blachowicz and Adesanya, if they're going to fight, I think the timeline was March. So I'd love to have Rumble Johnson coming back in, who's legally, or I guess able to fight starting February of 2021. I'd love to see a number one contender match, give him that right away against Teixeira, and the winner gets Adesanya and Blachowicz. I think Adesanya pulls through, and the winner of that fight, I think, would be a fantastic light heavyweight title fight. Go ahead, Josh. Sorry.
Oh, I was just going to say, I don't know how Glover keeps pulling that off. Gets rocked in fights, gets dominated in his first round, and somehow out of nowhere, while still rocked, pulls off these crazy submissions or just dominant positions. It's wild. It's wild to me that guys keep underestimating him when he's hurt, and they just pursue him like it's like they're going to get that finish, you know. And I don't know. I don't get it. But Z, you saying him hanging out and waiting for the championship fight? I just don't see that. He's too old. If he sits out, that fight happens in March. You're looking at, I don't know, maybe summer of next year. He's already over 41. That's a long time, and it's a lot of ifs. Like if people get injured and stuff like that. I don't know, and you never know what happens. I don't know if the contract for Adesanya and Blachowicz is signed or not. You never know. The UFC could know that they got time. They got to strike now with Glover. He does deserve it. He's beat the top guys, two guys that went to decision with Jones. Yeah, I just don't know if they leave him sit out that long. I do like the Rumble fight, but I was listening to Chael as well, that he was talking about that they fought before and Rumble kind of wrecked him, and he doesn't feel like people will be too eager to see that part too. I kind of disagree. I think it would be a good test for Rumble coming back in, because he's been out for so long. He bulked up, got humongous. You don't know how that's going to affect him. But yeah, I like that fight pick there. So,
and I guess to Zone's point about the prelims on the weekend, I just want to kind of highlight three of the fights for maybe some of the fans that missed it. So Max Griffin, he almost took Brahamiaj's ear off. It was insane.
Oh, that was gross.
John Anik had an unreal one-liner where he's like, yeah, he's going to have to get that bolted back to the side of his head. It was hilarious. Gruesome. I've never really seen anything like that, where a body part is literally hanging by a thread, and the fight was stopped. And you know what? To Ramiz's credit, the guy kept fighting and didn't want to stop. So massive props to him and his heart. But he's going to have a mangled ear, I feel like, for the rest of his life. Darren Elkins, that was one of the craziest comebacks. Guy was getting crushed all fight, and he somehow gets a sub in round 3. I guess we all kind of saw it coming, right? We all knew he wanted to go to the ground and look for that finish there, but he just stuck with it, and just really good perseverance to kind of just grind out that win. And then that Romanov, honestly, one of the craziest subs I've ever seen. He choked out a guy with one arm, his forearm, I think they said first in UFC history, down to the guy's neck, and just put him to sleep. Super impressive first round finish. I'm really excited to see him climb the heavyweight rankings, and I think he could be one of the next up and comers. So just a name to follow for all our fans at home. What do you guys think about that?
Yeah, those were fantastic. you know, and hooks in alum too. Gustavo Lopez getting a win to kick off the card was nice. Yeah, Elkins, I mean, he's a walking zombie. Like he literally, I don't know if you can finish him. Like obviously that's happened in his career, but he just gets peppered and just keeps. I have no idea, especially in the third round, getting a finish like that. Like when he's been pounded on and he's exerted 12, 13 minutes of wrestling and all that shit. Unbelievable to still have the strength to submit someone. The guy's a fucking walking zombie, and it's more impressive every time. And yeah, I agree with Romanov. You know, very impressive. He was a huge favorite, but he showed why. And yeah, maybe somebody like Martin Tybura next. Somebody just inside the top 15 would be a good matchup, I think.
Yeah, nice. I mean, terms of, I mean, jumping in, you want to jump into the next
Absolutely.
hot headlines?
Yeah,
I was just going to say to talk about at least one of the bigger fights there that they're talking about, Sandhagen and Dillashaw. I think that fight makes a lot of sense for a couple of reasons. I mean, obviously Sandhagen will take that fight any day against a big name like Dillashaw, and also Dillashaw, you know, he kind of, after getting, you know, tested positive, he kind of just has to do whatever UFC says, right? They have to take who he gives them, right? So I think that's a really good matchup. It makes a lot of sense and brings a lot of you know, a lot of troubles to Dillashaw's game, right? In terms of the length and the reach factor there, he's going to be able to really, you know, if he uses his reach advantage, you know, really kind of pick TJ apart a little bit, right? Obviously, TJ is going to have to work in that grappling, absolutely, for sure. He's going to have to get him against the fence, use the wrestling. Can he get in there? That's the question. Obviously, Aljamain Sterling was able to, but Sterling's also on a little bit of a different level in terms of BJJ for that division. So I think it's a really interesting matchup. I don't think it's an easy win by Dillashaw by any means. Extremely dangerous. So yeah, really exciting on my end.
Yeah, I agree with that. The thing that I noticed most about Sandhagen against Moraes was his footwork. Like he almost had similar footwork to what Dillashaw has, where you're moving side to side, you're moving forward, you're moving back. There's tons of angles, there's tons of movement, and that was a recipe for success. Switches, tons of success against Moraes with that kind of movement. And Dillashaw has the same thing. So I don't know, forecasting, I could see this being an easy lines over. I think they're going to kind of mitigate each other with that movement. And I think it's going to be, I'm assuming that could be a fight night main event. And I think it would be 5 rounds. I think that could definitely be one that goes the 5 rounds. And I can't wait to see it. It asks Dillashaw after a 2-year layoff, are you still as good as you once were? And it asks Sandhagen, who is that win away from getting a title shot against Jan or a rematch with Sterling, are you as good as, are you not as bad as how you looked against Sterling? And are you as good as you looked against Moraes? So I'm excited for that.
Yeah, good analysis. I don't really have anything to add to that, guys. That was a pretty good breakdown.
Yeah, Z, what other fights are you looking forward to coming up here that you might want to touch on for the fans?
Yeah, I was just going to say, well, I saw yesterday Kelvin Gastelum tweeted about basically telling Edmund Shabazian to sign the contract, right? And I think that one's really, really interesting. I mean, Edmund coming off that kind of devastating a knockout loss to Derek Brunson, I believe it was, and basically ending that hype train, right? So I think, for Edmund, that's a very dangerous fight. I don't know, coming off a knockout from Brunson, I don't know if I'm signing the contract to fight Kelvin either. So we'll see. But it makes a lot of sense on the UFC's end. But that's very dangerous for Edmund, I think, still. And I might be taking someone a little bit more of a warm up fight as opposed to Kelvin.
See, I can't agree with you anymore. I was thinking about that when you mentioned about that tweet. I would have liked to have seen Shabazian coming off a loss and being undefeated before that to fight somebody like Brad Tavares or Akhmedov at the bottom of the top 15. You're putting them right up against another killer that is also extremely motivated to come back after some misfortunes. I don't like that fight for Shabazian at all. I don't like that for building him back up, which is what the UFC usually is really good at doing, and it doesn't seem like they're doing that here. I would be picking Gastelum 9 times out of 10 against Shabazian. He's extremely talented everywhere, and I really don't like that matchup at all. I could see Gastelum actually knocking him out.
Yeah, and he's so fast. And like, we're talking about a guy that went to a decision with Izzy, and going into that 5th round, it was who wins this round is going to win the fight. Nobody's even come close to that against Izzy. So
except Marvin Vettori. Marvin Vettori.
Well, that one wasn't a who's going to win. It was 3 rounds to none for that one.
I don't know. Vettori's coming in hot, man.
Yeah. So is he's got a good test against Jacare, right? That's actually a very interesting fight as well. So we'll get into that one. I'm like with easy lines eventually down the line. But I mean, like, yeah, that's a great test. Vittori's been one of my favorites actually since he fought it, even though he lost that fight against Israel. Didn't really know him before that. Really respected his performance there. So yeah, he's an up and comer as well in that division.
Yeah, if we could touch on tomorrow quick, unless you guys have something else.
No,
yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, so they Bellator, the co-main and main are part of the featherweight tournament. We already have someone into the semis in that quarterfinal on the top part of the bracket, but really excited for those 2 co-main events tomorrow. Pitbull Carvalho and Weichel, and it's actually a rematch, him and Sanchez. And then just a couple other fights with Aaron Pico. They've tried to build him up. He looked really good last fight. Normally been good on the feet. I think he got a submission. He's a huge betting favorite tomorrow and expect him to get a finish there. The other one I'm really excited about on the main card, 2 undefeateds. We have 24-0 Yaroslav Amosov and 11-0 Logan Storley. So somebody's O's got to go. And I'm really, really excited about that one. Always like to see 2 undefeated guys because it really shows what they're made of and who's the better mixed martial artist. So I'm excited for those 4 fights specifically tomorrow night.
Nice. Yeah, no, I've got nothing to add there pretty much. I'm taking a look at the odds right now, though. Pico minus 800 and Patricio minus 700. Oh, boy. Those are, but you know what? Maybe you parlay them and just bet the house on it. You see what happens. I don't know. What do you think? You think, well, who's this? I don't even know. Like John De Jesus, I guess is probably how you pronounce it. I don't know about this stuff when they put like Pico against these guys where he's supposed to beat them, right? They built him up enough. Let's give him a test, right? I remember even his first fight in Bellator, he's against some Bradley something guy. I remember everyone was talking about a Bellator debut, everything for Pico.
He
lost,
right?
And he lost. Exactly. He got ended because they give him like too hard of a guy, So I don't know. Bellator, I think that's one of their main problems. Like they don't really manage these guys' careers like that well.
They do it with MVP as well.
Yeah.
True.
It's another guy that they feed him cans and then they expect him to eat Douglas Lima.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Like, come on, guys. Like, this is not the strategy. Like, right? Like, you want to build the rankings. Bellator should have a ranking. Even like
they really should.
Put something beside their name so like guys can fucking understand what the fuck's who's fighting who. Like,
add a rankings to Bellator and add some tournament style stuff to the UFC and just make it more exciting for everyone.
Yeah.
And then between round judge scoring. How about that?
Yeah, there we go. Live scoring. Like how many things as various promotions taken off this podcast? Like we should be getting money put into our bank accounts.
Royalties.
So many royalties.
And hey, UFC, if someone hits someone way after the bell, then deduct a fucking point. That was a joke last night. I will never forget that. And just a disgrace. So
yeah, I love the ref's reaction to that. Hey, don't.
Yeah.
And he just lets them walk away. It's like, you can't react like that. Then just be like, don't.
It's like you're telling your 2-year-old to do that, and then you expect them to never do it again. Yeah, okay.
And then Bisping, Fitzgerald, they're both like, that absolutely has to be a point deduction. And Bisping's like, you know what? In his defense, he doesn't speak English. Fitzgerald's like, it was a bell.
Bells don't speak a language.
Oh yeah, the universal
He doesn't speak the language of Bell. Yeah.
Yeah, it was great. Like I was howling, but I was rattled.
Yeah. I was laughing, but so rattled at the same time.
Yes.
So that sucked for the Iron Pole, the Canadian, the German Polish Canadian that we were hoping he'd get a W. Couple other contracts are very nice. And speaking of very nice, Pinheiro. I'm not talking about the finish she had last night. I'm talking about some of the pictures you can find when you Google her. Pinheiro is fantastic on the eyes, and she's going to be a great marketable fighter for the UFC. Looking forward to seeing her get in there next.
Hugely marketable. She knocked somebody out, and they were all hyping up her judo and talking how dominant she is on the ground. Didn't even get to see it.
And that was Dana's one knock. He's like, I didn't even get to see your judo, but here's your contract. Can't wait to see it. So I kind of like that line.
How about the opponent they put her up against, though?
Oh,
when they're building her up and they're like, she raced cross country when she's in high school and she finished last in every race. It's like, this is your competitor, eh? Really?
Yeah.
Really
Did
picking
not
the
look like a
athletic
runner.
type.
Did not look like a runner at all.
3-fight win streak though against a couple of cans.
Kind of was rooting for her. I'm like, I feel really bad for her now. Finishes last in everything and then just gets starched.
Maybe she'll date Jared Vandera in the future.
Couple Chef Boyardee cans. So looking ahead into Saturday night, we know Z-Balls. Well, some of us got holidays today. I didn't, but I think Z-Ball took a moment of silence to check the sports book and to get ahead of that book. So Z, who's the smart money on this weekend?
Well, yeah, just to kind of quickly recap last weekend here on Easy Lines, 2 weeks ago, as quickly as we go 8-8, we go 2-5 last weekend, right? But nonetheless, we're at 64.3% win rate since mid-June with 72 wins and 40 losses. We had the over in the main event with Santos and Glover, was just 1 minute shy away from paying that off. That's something I kind of wanted to highlight here was that, when I say over 2.5 rounds, that actually means halfway through the third round. So on the surface level, it sounds like we won that bet, but really it was actually the under, right? So I just wanted to make sure that that's clear for our listeners moving forward and just make sure we're on the same page there. So jumping into the weekend, we have a fight that promises to be very exciting, obviously, a lightweight matchup between Paul Felder and Rafael dos Anjos. RDA, he's the current favorite at -188, and Felder, the underdog, at +162. Felder is taking the fight on basically 5-day notice here. And, what a dog he is for that, whether it be a last-minute cornerman, TV analyst, or main event fighter here, obviously, he can get the job done. So a huge amount of respect goes out to him. But, I don't think it's necessarily a great decision in terms of his fight career. He's, obviously great company man move here. I'm sure he's getting a step up in terms of pay for doing this, but he's in a real tough situation against a heavily seasoned veteran in RDA who's fought the who of everyone in the lightweight division and even welterweight as of late. RDA has 3 decision losses to Colby Covington, Kamaru Usman, and Leon Edwards in the last 2 years. All of these guys are huge compared to Felder. If those guys couldn't finish RDA in 5 rounds, then I don't really believe Felder can do it either, not even close. RDA, has he been in some wars and is there some wear and tear? Sure, but Felder's also been in the similar type of wars previously before as well, especially on a 5-day notice here. It's a big challenge for Felder. So RDA is gonna, he's gonna feel like he's fighting someone that's actually his own size again. No longer welterweight at lightweight. He's gonna feel confidence, putting the pressure on Felder. That's when RDA does his best work, when he's able to back up the other guy, put him against the fence, mix in some grappling with that dirty boxing against the fence. He couldn't do that against bigger, stronger guys like Colby and Usman. So he had to rely on, his shorter or striking when he had shorter reach and height. Obviously going RDA in that fight. I also do really like the over in this fight. I believe Felder will put up a great fight as always, as he always does. It may even be a back and forth close fight in which RDA squeaks a decision, but RDA decision plus 150 looks very good to me. The over-under line is 4.5 rounds. Again, that's halfway through the 5th round in the final round. So over 4.5 minus 185 is what I like there. So yeah, I've done my spiel there, but what are you guys thinking?
So that fight's officially at lightweight? Like they didn't do a catch weight or anything?
I believe so. That's what it says online, at least. Yes.
That's wild that Felder can make that weight on this notice.
Well, Felder's been training for a triathlon, apparently. So that's kind of the thing, is that he's been training hard for this triathlon he's going to do. So he was already pretty close. That's why he can make this weight on short notice, because he was already kind of cutting. But yeah, that's kind of why.
Yeah.
But yeah, sorry, go ahead.
No, I didn't have anything to add to that. That was a good analysis. I wasn't sure if they had announced the weight, because 5 days notice to cut weight and everything. I didn't know if they would do like 160 catch weight or whatever.
Yeah, fair enough. What about you, Zoni? What are you thinking there? Do you like RDA or?
I'm in with you. I'm not picking anyone here. Just Felder's one of my favorite fighters, and I know what he said today or yesterday was if he loses this, he's probably not going to go out and retire. But if he wins this, he believes he could get a big money fight left. He feels like he's been left out the top 5 of the lightweight division. So because he stepped up, he's got a lot to gain from this, and he won't necessarily retire either way. I think that if he gets a win and it's by a finish, that he thinks he deserves one of those big name fights and a big money fight. So just excited to see it. Glad he stepped up and pumped for Saturday.
Yeah, nice. No, yeah, totally agree. And, Felder, this is a big step up, or last minute step up for him. So big respects out to him. He saved the event pretty much. So whatever happens there, good on to him for sure. But the next fight I want to talk about is actually a little bit earlier in the main card. It's Eric Anders taking on Antonio Arroyo. Hopefully I said that right. I don't know. Antonio Arroyo. Is that how you say it, Zone? I'm not even sure. You can check it out later. But Anders,
Arroyo,
favorite. Yeah. Arroyo. Yeah, there you go. That's it. Anders is a favorite at minus 138. Antonio, slight underdog at plus 110. I'm leaning on Anders in this one, especially with this price. Yes, Anders are on this kind of up and down, but he's had 10 fights in the UFC. He's fought Machida. He's fought Diego Santos. And now he lost to those guys, obviously, but his experience and competition is just so much better than Antonio. Maybe there's something I'm missing here, and Zone, you can kind of point it out to me, maybe in terms of like the style matchup or something. But minus 138 with Eric Anders, I think who's performed well in the UFC in general. He, like I said, he's a little up and down, but I think he's gonna bring that experience and really almost be able to dominate. But I think by decision plus 200 looks good value to me. Take him by money line, certainly, for sure. But yeah, what are you guys thinking?
I want to jump in on that one quick, Z, because I actually had this highlighted as one of my picks as well with Anders, and I'll just provide some insights to our fans. So Anders, I would compare him to a Hardy in the sense he's a super athlete. This guy was a linebacker for the undefeated Alabama Crimson Tide when they won the national championship in 2009. He had seven tackles and 1 forced fumble in that game. Went on, almost made the NFL, and actually played for Calgary Stampeders here in the CFL. And so this guy, he's just an athlete, right? He still has Nick Saban as like a life coach. And I think that really kind of helps him just out in his MMA training and things. His first ever loss was against Machida. And like you look at his strength of schedule, it just destroys Arroyo's. And so he's gone up to light heavyweight. He's come back down to middleweight, right? He lost to Santos there. But I just think purely his experience, his athleticism has a massive edge here. And I don't think that line really reflects that. In my opinion, he should be much of a heavier favorite here. So yes, exactly. Hammered the money line. I like that decision pick too. I think it'll be a slow starting fight and could very well go the full 15 minutes. So fully on board with the easy lines. Zone or Josh, any thoughts on that one?
I just actually rewatched his fight against Santos, and he was doing really well. I think he was actually winning that fight before he got clipped. And he took that on super short notice. It was that's why he went up to 205, was they just needed a guy on short notice, and he almost won the fight, which we then saw how good Santos turned out to be. So that was a pretty impressive fight.
Absolutely.
I just think at minus 138, like, again, like, that doesn't make sense to me. That should be more like a minus 180 or minus 200. And quickly to go back, actually, like, to say what, to go back to the main event very quickly, like, Zone, obviously, he likes Felder, or he likes that underdog pick there, which is very fair. But that RDA, which, anyone else thinks that is fair, but, like, again, RDA minus 188, that should really be a minus 220. That's kind of the reasoning that I go behind there, especially on that 5-day notice thing, right? So if Felder had more time to prepare and kind of things, but RDA is going to go in there a little bit slightly more prepared and mentally, I think, as well. But anyways, that's where the price really, I think, comes into play with Eric Andrews. I don't know too much about this Antonio guy, to be honest. So, but just looking at that background, like at minus 138, Eric is the way to go there.
Yeah, and I actually don't think Felder will win. I'm not picking him. I just want him to win. Like I'm not putting.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. I put words in your mouth there, so
that's okay. I usually do that.
Don't get it twisted.
Do you have any more, Z?
I was just gonna say one more value pick that I have that I kind of like is Rando Marcos decision plus 190. She's taking on Kanoko Murata, who won the vacant strawweight championship in Invicta at the end of 2019. Obviously, Japanese. This will be her first UFC test. Marcos has 14 fights in the UFC with wins over Angela Hill and Carla Esparza, and losses to Claudia Gadelha and Rosa Mayunas. So, obviously well experienced, which greatly outnumbers Murata, right? So Murata's going to have a clear speed advantage, but she won't be able to use the grappling and BJJ that she has, like, against a very strong, like, bigger Marcos who has that experience. So again, I'm not, I just really like the value on that decision. For sure, that fight's going to decision almost. That's why I like that plus 190 value there. But other than that, that's basically what I got.
I'm in on you with the Marcos, but just by money line, just in case, like the difference between money line and a finish, like she could sneak in a choke. She's due for a win though. She's kind of been on a slide here, so I like her. I just wanted to highlight like two fight of the night candidates, like must watch fights. Extremely excited to watch the Brendan Allen Sean Strickland fight. Strickland obviously came off that accident and came back and looked fantastic his last fight. Brendan Allen was supposed to fight Ian Heinisch last weekend, and Heinisch had to pull out. So they rebooked him, and these are two guys that are going to be looking for the finish. It's going to be a fantastic fight. The other one is the Chaos Williams Abdul Razak Al Hassan fight. It's the co-main event. They put it there for a reason. I know it's not the greatest card, but you wouldn't get a co-main slot if there weren't going to be fireworks. So I'd watch out for that one. One value pick on the undercard, the Spider Monkey. I think she gets back on in the win column as does Rana Marcos. Ashley Yoder, she's a plus 110 underdog, and I just think she gets back in the win column. She's a hard worker. She's been on the end of a couple decisions. I think she comes out with the win this weekend.
Nice. Yeah, I actually wanted to quickly touch on that Brendan Allen and Sean Strickland fight. I mean, like, I didn't do quite enough research. I don't know quite enough about these guys, but I'm leaning on Brendan Allen there. I mean, taking a look at it in terms of, it's basically a pick 'em fight, going to be close, but I think Allen, kind of the up and comer, does pretty well. Strickland's obviously had a little bit better competition in the past, but I think Allen's really gonna kind of showcase his talent within this fight and show that he's the type of guy that can, break into the top 15. The other fight that I don't know if you spoke about, I don't think you said there's Zone, but what about that Louis Smolka and
Quinones.
Jose. Yeah. Like I don't know. I like Jose there, like kind of as an underdog plus 110. Again, I'm not saying put a bunch of units on it, guys. Personally, RDA is my money line, is my strongest pick, but at plus 110 with that juice on there, I like that. Like Sean O'Malley, yeah, knocked him out, but Sean O'Malley, as long as his foot stays okay, he basically knocks out everyone. So I think his stock's a little bit lower than it should be, and Smolka's not really, he's kind of a meh type of guy, right? So they're just kind of both mediocre, right? So I'd rather take the plus money there, and in the long run, I think that's plus expected value. So I think that's decent to take there as well.
Yeah, I respect that. I like that too. A couple crazy value picks for tomorrow night. So
here we go.
Weichel's already beaten Sanchez, and it's a rematch. Now Sanchez is obviously, they both, they've gotten better hopefully throughout their career, but I mean, he's already beat him before. Plus 205 for Weichel. I'm a fan of Weichel, so I know I said before I don't really like adding in personal bias, and this isn't a bias. He's actually beat him before. So just if it's something you want to parlay with, plus 205. He's beat the guy before, and he's a solid MMA fighter with a ton of fights. I think he has close to 60 fights. And Pitbull, I mean, Carvalho, this guy has been talking a big game, and he's a plus 475 underdog, Carvalho. Is it going to happen? It's unlikely based on the line, but if you want to get a little juicy, even if it's 10 or $20 you want to put on it, I think he's going to give him a fight. I really do. I don't think this is going to be just a first round finish for Pitbull. Carvalho's got a lot of skill, and he believes in himself, and can't wait to watch that tomorrow, because I think something crazy is going to happen.
Amazing. Well, we're out of time for this week's episode, guys. Enjoy these 4 interviews, and we'll catch you next week for episode 22. Best of luck, y'all.
Peace.
Next up on the Hooks In MMA podcast, we're lucky to have a big contender in the featherweight division in Bellator. He's got a huge fight, Bellator Grand Prix, on November 12th against Emmanuel Sanchez. It's a rematch. Lucky to have today Daniel Drake Weichel. How's it going today?
Hey, thanks for having me. I'm doing great. Thank you.
So you grew up in Germany. You grew up in Erba. Just wondering, what you did growing up, what your hobbies were, and what got you into MMA.
Yes, growing up in that part, that's very countryside of Germany, but I think what many childhoods are, it's like playing football, like soccer, and that was the same with me. But I was always excited for other sports, and but I think at the age around 10, I was more and more fascinated with martial art, and I watched movies, and I got more and more inspired for it, and that was pretty much the start for me getting into mixed martial arts.
Yeah. So at 10 years old, what discipline of martial arts kind of hooked you in?
I have to say, like the first, like from 10 on, I was watching Jean-Claude Van Damme movies, Bruce Lee and everything. And it took quite a while. Like 3 years later, there was like a class for jiu-jitsu close by. And I asked my parents if I can join that class, and I really want to. And yeah, they bring me there, and I got started with jiu-jitsu in the beginning. And after a while, I started Brazilian jiu-jitsu, and from then on, it was wrestling and striking as well.
Awesome. So yeah, what gym are you currently at, and who's in your corner for this upcoming fight?
I'm blessed to be with MMA Spirit in Frankfurt. I'm with this team for the last 10 years, and I would have in my corner like my teammate Max Heine, who's also a training partner, and Mohammed Ouali as the striking coach, and Niels as my head coach for everything. Yes.
So yeah, you have a 9-3 Bellator record. I believe you're 40-11 overall. It's a lot of fights. So just speak to your experience and how that'll benefit you in the upcoming fight.
I think it's all a progress, and it's a long journey. And especially after so many fights, I always have to sometimes take a step back and like think about what got me started, what is it now, what keeps the fire burning, and what is the passion. And the thing is, it started with a little bit and it got more and more. And even now, when I have my first professional fight was with 17, now I'm 35, so it's quite a while, but it got more and more added to it and even more passion with it. So yeah, I try to take a lesson from everything, even from the wins as from the losses, and from each training session as well. So yeah, I try to carry this with me, not as a comfort, but as a learning session every day, every fight. Yes.
Yeah, so that's I like the way you put that. When you think about that, that's more than half your life you've been fighting professionally, right? So
Yes.
I guess just as a huge fan of the sport, what makes that burning, what makes you fired up and what makes you motivated to move forward? Like, is it that learning, each session you learn, each session you grow kind of thing, or?
Yeah, it's like when you fight professionally, you get a lot of into I have to win this fight, I have to win this fight. But at the end of the day, it's about it becomes like it's performing. I want to perform at my very best. I want to every percent of my potential I want to put out there, and this is what motivates me and what fires me up every time. I want to go out there and I want to say, hey, I left everything I had in there. I fulfilled my potential as a mixed martial artist, as a fighter, and put out the best of me. And that's what's motivated me more and more every time.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And like, if you have a game plan going into it with your coaches and stuff, like executing that game plan and getting as close to perfection as possible, right? Like,
yeah, and on the one hand, it's exactly like this, and on the other hand, it's also enjoying it. Like, don't get too much in one direction of I have to do this, I have to do this. In the end, I have to enjoy what I'm doing and at the same time fulfill my potential. And this is sometimes a very difficult path, because you want the perfection on the one hand of the technique of how you want to put everything out. On the other hand, if you don't do it with joy, with fun, it will stop at certain points and you are not flexible enough. So I try to find the perfect combination in my training, in my fights.
yeah, that makes a lot of sense. So going back, you did fight for the featherweight world title against Patricio Ferrer. Just talk about that experience, having that opportunity, and potentially with a win here, could be having another opportunity again.
Yes, the first time I fought him, yes, it was it was very close to finish in the first round. And the second round, like, I watched it a million times. I thought about it a million times. And yeah, I did a mistake. And with an opponent like Pitbull, he doesn't allow a mistake. So I paid for it, and I took the lesson. And for the second time, maybe I did it a little bit too much. Like, I hesitated maybe a little bit in certain positions where I could bring this little extra, what would bring me the victory. But yeah, that's in the past. My team and I, we watched the fights, we analyzed it many times, and I think I take a lot out of that fight, and yeah, I'm looking forward to it. And yeah, maybe we meet a third time in the semifinals if he wins against Carvalho.
Yeah.
Yes, and yeah, would be a great part of the journey. Definitely meeting him the third time, winning, and continuing in the tournament.
And then I think a number one thing for a fighter, I mean, I don't fight, but is you never look past your next opponent. So you have fought
Yes.
Emmanuel Sanchez before, right? And that's the big fight coming up, and you're really focused on that. So I guess my question here is, when you fought someone before and you're about to fight someone again, as a fighter, what is your approach going into this, knowing that you had success last time? Because you both would have grown quite a bit since then, right?
Absolutely. And I really don't look much back to that fight, because I know he evolved as a fighter. I watched his last fights, and that's where I analyze him, and where I put him as a fighter right now. What's in the past, it's in the past. I changed my game. I evolved as a fighter myself, and so did he. So to me, I expect the best Emmanuel Sanchez who ever been fighting in Bellator, who ever been fighting. And yeah, to me, this is a championship fight. To me, this is for the belt. This is for everything, for winning the tournament. This is what this fight is all about.
Yeah, and it's a fantastic tournament. Like, it's one of the deepest divisions, if not the deepest, and every fight here is going to be tough. So, you know, it's a long road, but I'm sure, you know, the training and all that stuff leading up to the fight will be worth it when you can enjoy it and have fun out there, right?
Right, absolutely. It's like to me, it's an historical tournament. When I started getting into MMA and watching like Shuto, Pride, UFC, Bellator, everything, and I would have saw a tournament like this, I would be freaking out like crazy. With 16, 15 years old, I would be like, yeah.
Just can't wait for the matchups,
Can't
right?
wait for it, and absolutely into it. And now I'm there. I'm what I imagined when I was at that age, and what I always wanted to accomplish as a fighter, as a mixed martial artist, is now right in front of me, and it's in my hands to fulfill it.
Yeah. So what do you like to do after fights? So you put in a huge, you know, a huge training camp, and then you lead up to the fight, you make weight, and you get to go out there and do what you love. Afterwards, how do you celebrate?
I celebrate in the way, like, spending time with my family, with my daughter, and with my close friends. So this is really something leading up to the fight in training camp that there's not much energy and time for it. So I'm really looking forward to celebrate with them, and having a great time with them as well.
Yeah. So you said you have a daughter. What kind of hobbies do you do outside of training and actually fighting?
When we're here in Germany, I like to go to nature, to do things outside, like cycling, to go with her, see animals, go to the zoo or something like that. I really enjoy every moment with her and the family, like just hanging out and yeah, appreciating the time that we have, and appreciate seeing her growing up. When I got the chance to travel, I like to go snowboarding or surfing. That's really what I love to do when I'm outside of Germany. And yeah, I hope when the traveling gets easier, that this is something I can do, maybe also after the fight as well.
Yeah. Where do you snowboard?
Yeah, we can go to Austria or Switzerland. That's very close by. It's like only 4-hour ride, and then we have beautiful mountains out there to ride.
Yeah, I've heard nothing but good things. We're in Canada here. I'm not sure if you've been to
Nice.
Canada before, but out west has got some good stuff. I don't know if it's quite as good as Austria or Switzerland, but
Have to figure out. I'm curious. Like, also after my career, I like to travel. I love to travel a lot, to see the world, see different places, meet different people. That's something I love to have with fighting. But when I'm fighting, I don't get to see the areas too deeply, or too. Yeah, it's like, yeah, you cut weight. You in a different mood. You have a different mindset, and yeah, that's also something I really want to enjoy after fighting.
yeah. So last section here, last segments between rounds, I'm going to ask you a quick question here, or a few questions, and there'll be a few answers. Okay.
Okay.
What's your favorite kind of food to eat?
Sweet potatoes.
Favorite sport other than MMA?
Snowboarding, surfing.
If someone were to come and visit Germany, what would be a cool spot for you to tell them to visit?
Frankfurt, definitely. The whole city.
And what's special there?
It's a great city. You can have a lot of culture. You have nice countryside around, like it's the great nature out there, and you have a lot to see in the city. Like you have the 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 banking areas and everything. The European Central Bank is there. We have great parks and the opera, of course. Very nice things to see. If someone wants to come, I'm open to show them around. Definitely.
Awesome. What's your favorite country other than Germany to visit?
Bali.
Bali? Favorite type of music?
I'll listen to all kind of music, but here I have to go with my brother Drake.
Oh, there we go. Just 45 minutes away is where he's born. So kind of cool. Favorite movie of all time?
I would say I have so many. I'm watching so many movies, and it's always hard to pick one. But Gladiator is definitely one of my favorites.
Yeah, it's a good one. Who would be in your top 5 pound for pound fighters of all time?
Demetrius Johnson, definitely.
Yeah, do you have a couple others?
Demetrius is one that comes in my mind for sure. John Jones, George St. Pierre. Yeah, these 3 I would definitely name. They come to my mind right away.
And who's going to win on the 12th and how? Weichel or Sanchez?
It will be Sanchez because I know what I'm capable of, and I will go out there and I will love to put a show for all of my fans.
Yeah, so you're going to be victorious, right?
Absolutely.
Any sponsors, shout outs, or social media?
Of course, first of all, I want to thank my team, MMA Spirit, for giving me the best training camp I can possibly have. Then great thank to my sponsors, Samurai Security, Fevlocks, Mary Jane, CBD, Olymp Germany, and Fight Nature. Thanks a lot for the support, and for you as well. We'll bring home the victory.
Thank you so much. Can't wait to watch November 12th, Featherweight Grand Prix, facing Emmanuel Sanchez. We have Daniel, Weichel, and Drake is his favorite singer, and it's his nickname. And just because he's from Toronto and we're from Canada, we're going Weichel. And thanks so much for joining today on Hooks in MMA.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks so much. Next up on the Hooks in MMA podcast, we're lucky to have 145-pounder in the Bellator promotion. He's got a big fight coming up, Bellator Featherweight Grand Prix on November 12th, fighting Daniel Weichel. Lucky to have Emmanuel Sanchez here today. How's it going on?
Excellent, my friend. How are you today?
Good, thanks. I appreciate you coming on. So you were born in Chicago in the United States. Just wondering what kind of hobbies you had growing up and what got you into MMA.
Thankfully, my mother signed me up for just about every sport I ever played as a kid. And that's something that I'm actually really grateful for, because I got to see what I was, I guess, where my talents were with that. And obviously, it wasn't in any sport, you know. So I did my best, though. In any sport that I did play, I always wanted to be a champ. And it didn't work out, you know, or it just didn't go my way. You know, obviously, and did well, you know, in little league stuff, or even in high school, playing a few sports here and there. Soccer was the big one. But, you know, going up to, you know, the end of, you know, high school, that's where my MMA dream started. And that's where I really saw my desire, my passion, and saw, I believe, my calling on, you know, my destiny to be a world champion. And it's something that's very special. So I'm kind of glad that I didn't excel in any other sport, you know, collegiately or even in high school or any other, you know, in my youth, let's just say, in any sports that I ever played. But I turned out to be a damn good fighter, so yeah, I'm grateful for that.
It's worked out pretty well for you. You know, talking with a few different athletes, like some of them say, you know, I only did this one sport my whole life. I wonder what it would have been like playing a bunch of other sports. And then we have yourself that played a bunch and found the one that they wanted. And, you know, some people just play a few their whole life, but not professionally, right? So everybody has their own path.
Absolutely. Everyone's got their own path. That's what I say. Everybody's path is different. That's what
Yeah.
I've told my young friends in the MMA world since when I had less than 10 pro fights, that everyone's road is different. And, you know, you just got to cherish it. That's all. Be grateful for all your experiences that you've learned over, you know, the course of your life and your career as a man, as a martial artist, as a fighter, everything, you know, that the endeavors that you're pursuing in your life and in your career.
Enjoy the journey.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So what gym are you currently training out of, and who's in your corner for your upcoming fight?
Rufus Sport Mixed Martial Arts Academy. Got my head coach, Duke Rufus, and my other head coach, Scott Cushman. Then I'm actually taking a teammate with me as well, too, who's fighting on CFFC next week. Brian Bautista is also a Bellator vet, a Combates vet, and a young up-and-coming fighter himself. So you'll see him very soon, you know, in Bellator, UFC, or whoever, you know, chooses to sign him or wherever he chooses to go. But he's definitely a young, hungry fighter on the rise.
And I'm pretty sure you train with the Pettis brothers too. Are they at Rufus or?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. So Sergio looks like he might have a title fight coming up.
Yes, he does. Me and Sergio are be the next ones to bring these world titles home. So that's where the bantamweight and featherweight straps will be.
Pretty damn good training area there you guys have, with Rufus?
Absolutely.
Yeah, so you have an 11-3 Bellator record. Like, that's an incredible record. You fought for the title. Just, you know, wondering about that experience with Patricio Freire at the 145-pound division and fighting for that title. Just your experience fighting him, and potentially, if with this win, could be facing him again.
So when I win, you know, when I defeat Daniel Weichel, yes, I have the opportunity to fight him again, which is what I want. You know, obviously, Carvalho has a chance, so you know, there's always that possibility. But obviously, the first fight that I wanted for sure was Daniel Weichel when I saw the bracket, and the next one that I want is Patricio Pitbull, because I'm trying to write something, a story that's, man, you know, like no other. You know, not many people know this, but I chose the toughest side of the bracket. I didn't think that I would be on the same side as the champion, you know, and as Patricio, but what a story I get to tell, to be able to go out and avenge my losses to two guys who beat me, you know. So starting with this one and, you know, on to the next one. It's coming up on 2 years since I fought Patricio. It was a really great fight. I definitely believe that I can beat him. Like, I know I can. And not only beat him, but I know I can finish him, and I know I can stop him. And it just didn't go my way that night. It was obviously, he showed his championship caliber and his experience. But I think I exposed him in a lot of areas. And he said himself that was the toughest fight he's ever had. And one thing I do know is we can't hide from the truth. He won the decision, but I believe I won the fight. And he went to the hospital after we fought, so he couldn't leave Israel. I was on my plane ride home, and he couldn't leave Israel yet. So you tell me who won that.
Yeah, and I like the way you put that, writing your own story, because, you know, somebody like you that's been around and being as successful as you have, what better way to go out and avenge two losses that you previously had and winning the championship and bringing it back to Rufus, right?
Absolutely.
So November 12th, you do have that rematch with Daniel Weichel. You know, what do you think about going into that fight? Obviously, you're different fighters from when you fought before. You've both grown, I'm sure, in many ways. So what are you looking forward to in that fight?
To really showcase my skills, I thought, you know, in 2016, I was 25 years old, you know, and I fought Daniel Weichel, and I knew that was the biggest opportunity to date, you know, that fighting him then, because that was the guy who most recently fought for the title and almost won it. And even Bellator brass believes I won that fight. A lot of people also believe I won that fight. So I don't rest on that, though. You know, I have nothing personally against Daniel. I chose that fight, though, because of the lesson that it taught me. Likewise with Patricio. You know, no need to trash talk or bad mouth or put anyone down or whatever. I just know I'm better than that. That's the biggest thing, and that's what I'm ready to go out and improve. So they taught me valuable lessons, and obviously losing sucks. It's the worst thing in the world, but it makes you better. It's like medicine. No one likes taking it, but it makes you better. And that's what it does for me. And it needed to happen. It did, because it's only made me that much more of a ferocious and vicious and relentless fighter that I am now.
That's well put. When you go through a training camp and then you cut weight and then you end up fighting, what do you do after to celebrate your time?
Just pizza, just good food, pizza, all the good Mexican food, and just, I don't go too crazy now. My body, I'm getting older, and I wouldn't say it's harder, but I want to really maintain that championship status. Likewise with I have before, but taking the time in between fights was a little more of a gap, and I'm really looking to really live that really champ lifestyle. And to me, though, not just champ lifestyle, what everybody says, and all the champ camp stuff, and their rhymes and acronyms that they have or whatever. The real legacy that I'm trying to leave, and really proving that I'm the best in the world, not only obviously in Bellator, but because there's the talk always, between Bellator and UFC fighters on this and that, but I really want to show that I'm one of the most devastating, ruthless fighters in my division, but in the world as well too. So not just in Bellator, but throughout the whole world.
Yeah, and I think you have so far, but you can really cement that with these next few fights, hopefully, right?
Absolutely.
Do you have, have a family? What are your hobbies outside of training and fighting?
So I actually kind of having a party right now. I got a gang of my friends over right now before we go to the gym right now and get our own another grind in before the end of the night. After we just left the gym, I haven't even showered yet. That's just the story of my life, from one gym to another. But that's that overtime status, I just constant grind, nonstop work. But outside of that is just enjoying time with my dog, enjoying time with my family, being able to eat good food. I like to read and play different not just video games, but puzzles. I definitely want to sound more articulate in the game and have that great charisma and be, how should I say, not only an iconic figure, but a great public figure, I guess. So just like Muhammad Ali, and just like another one of my idols growing up, and Oscar De La Hoya, So there's a lot of great, other great fighters I want to resemble and make the steps that I want to make as a man and as a human being as well too.
A couple of legends, and you're helping with that status by just saying yes to giving us some time today. So thank you for that.
Much appreciated.
Our last segment here is between rounds. I'm going to ask you a question. There'll be a few different answers, okay?
Sounds good.
You might have already answered it. What's your favorite food to eat?
Pizza.
Yeah.
Ninja Turtle, man. Martial arts and pizza. So.
Favorite sport other than MMA?
Soccer.
Yeah. Do you have a favorite team?
That's such a rough one, because Barcelona, Madrid, and just because Ronaldo, Messi, so I wouldn't necessarily just favorite team. It definitely, what my favorite, actually more than anything, instead of just the club teams, is actually the World Cup. World Cup is actually one of my favorite. When it's the World Cup is when it all goes down, man. So seeing Mexico versus Argentina, France versus Germany, and just the list goes on and on and on of such the best players from each country being able to go at it. The World Cup is amazing.
One of my favorite events too. I was disappointed not to see the Euro Cup this year.
Yeah, that as well too. Euro Cup.
What's your favorite spot in the USA? Favorite hidden gem?
Ooh, man, that's a tough one. Well, I'd have to say for now, at least Milwaukee, Wisconsin, just because of my gym, because I live right by my gym as well too. So that's why I got a house right by my gym. But, man. Original Mexico, man. I gotta go with either California or Texas. They both have some ocean, but I definitely want to be right kind of where there's no snow. It's always warm, and where somewhere by the ocean, man. That's where I gotta be. So when I retire, trust me, that's probably where I'll be at. You know what I mean? I gotta have sun year round. I never want to see snow again, and I just. Like a merman, dude. I'm gonna go surf and do some stuff like that. Just always be at the beach. That's the beach life.
We got lots of snow where I am, but I'm a big basketball fan, and I'm a big fan of Marquette University basketball. So I got to get up to Milwaukee someday to get up there.
Yeah, absolutely.
What's your favorite country in the world other than the States?
Oof, man, Israel was very beautiful. I got to fight there. I love the Israeli fans. But the land of my inheritance and of everything of who I am, and how I live my life and my culture and my lifestyle and everything I am as a being, So I know being able to go in with the Mexican flag and everything that I have, it's not just representing the people, but I would do that anywhere I would go, because it's just it's something that I was always taught as a kid. It's nothing, to bring any other race, country, ethnicity, or person down. It's just really proud of my roots and my inheritance, knowing of the native indigenous people that came from, Mexico. So I just love it, even though it's very far away, but it's home away from home, man.
Yeah,
There's nothing like it.
pretty damn good soccer country too.
Yeah,
What's your favorite kind of music?
Oh, man. Damn, let's go. I got to say, as of now, I had rap music, hip hop, or whatever it was my youth growing up, and even rock and roll. I love it all, dude. I love all classics, Nirvana, hardcore Disturbed, some death metal too sometimes even.
Nice.
It's thrown in there, so I have the variety of music. But as of late, for training, reggae and reggaeton, man. It definitely gives me that peace and that Rastafari and Hakuna Matata to just relax and enjoy life. And I'm a fighter, and fighting is already intense enough as it is. So I get some music like that, and I just enjoy, have a good time, man. Have a drink, have a smoke, and just life is good. Hakuna Matata.
That sounds good to me. Favorite movie of all time?
Right. Oh man, The Legend of Drunken Master, Jackie Chan, childhood idol.
And who's in your top 5 pound for pound fighters of all time?
Ooh, that's easy. Number 1, George St. Pierre. Number 2, Mighty Mouse. Number 3, I got to give it to him, man. He's definitely proved that GOAT status, John Jones. Number 4, probably, it's a tough one, but I have a lot of respect for him and seen him go over the years, Fedor Emelianenko. And number 5,
Emmanuel Sanchez.
Yeah, I was gonna say I was gonna get there next, but you know what? Anderson Silva, actually.
Okay.
I was thinking, it was a rough one because, man, when I first started, man, some of my real first idols were when I very first started. Even before I had my first fight, the guys that I grew up watching, what was early MMA, Chuck Liddell, BJ Penn, Anderson Silva, George, those are when they were kind of young and still in their prime, making their way up to get the title, or they had the title and they were having their title defense runs, and that's when they were up there. So those guys are special to me, and to still see them in the game or fight now or where they are in MMA now, it's something truly special. So never met George. I met John. Met BJ, met Aldo, Fedor, as knows me, so that's a big thing. Every time I see Team Fedor and them, they come up to me and show me that mutual respect. So that's awesome. I fought on the same card as him as well too. So getting to know Fedor. Mighty Mouse, kind of ended up meeting Mighty Mouse, but yeah, I guess George is the only one that I think maybe I've seen Anderson from a distance, but I never got to personally meet Anderson.
November 12th, how does Emmanuel Sanchez win?
First round domination. He's done. I'm looking to take his head off in the first round, either by knockout or by submission, but Daniel Weichel will be stopped.
Extremely excited to watch that fight. We really appreciate your time today. November 12th, Daniel Weichel is your rematch again here. Maybe you could avenge that loss. Hopefully you will. Bellator featherweight championship.
We will.
Featherweight tournament, and you're going to get your way to a championship. We really appreciate your time, Emmanuel El Matador Sanchez. This is Hooks in MMA. Thanks so much.
Thank you for having me, brother. Appreciate it.
Thanks so much, and good luck.
Thank you, brother. Appreciate it.
Next up on the Hooks in MMA podcast, we're lucky to have UFC fighter. He's got a big fight coming up in a few weeks here. He's from born in Houston, Texas, but currently training out of Spring, Texas. Alex, the Great White Morono. How's it going today?
Cool, man. Good. Another day in the martial arts life, man. It's always a blast.
Yeah, so we were just chatting there quick. So you were teaching some classes tonight. What were you teaching, and how did that go?
Good. See you, Justin. Been teaching for a while. I had a big kids class from 5 to 6, and then a huge adults class from 6 to 7:30. And usually we would do some MMA work afterwards. But yeah, the gym's been established for 14 years. Come October, I've been here since I was a teenager. I own and run it now. So the gym's been around for a while. We have a huge student base. It's a lot of fun. It's a great way to kind of stay sharp. And when I get home from Dallas after training at Fortis, I get to kind of like modify the stuff that I had done well or done poorly, and then go back and try it again next week.
That's awesome. So growing up in Texas, what were some of the hobbies you had, and then what got you into MMA?
Man, not a lot of hobbies. I had 2 older brothers, and when I was like hanging out with friends, played a lot of poker. And every time we would play cards, one of our friends' dads would either buy like a UFC fight or a Pride fight back in the day. So that kind of like piqued my interest in training. A few of my friends had done like boxing. And then one year for Christmas, when I was, I think, a sophomore or junior in high school, I had got a membership to a boxing gym, and they had started doing jiu-jitsu classes, and I was like hooked right up the gates. So I've really been training, pretty much every day since I was a teenager. I'm 30 now. So it's been really my only main hobby that I've ever had.
Yeah, that's cool. What gym are you currently training out of, and some of the coaches that'll be in your corner in your upcoming fight?
Yeah, so I own and operate a Gracie Baja in Houston. There's a lot of really good GBs. A guy named Draculino is like the head of all the Gracie Bajas here in Texas, and he's the man. He's a legend. When I was 19, I went to South Africa to go teach jiu-jitsu for a while. I lived there for about a year, and I was like flipping through one of my students' DVD collection, and sure enough, he had like a Draculino tutorial. And I was young at the time, like 19, and I didn't realize how kind of like world-renowned he was. So it was cool knowing I was in good hands. But in the beginning of every week, I drive up to Dallas, which is about 3 hours north of where I'm at. And then I train with Coach Safe So. He runs Fortis MMA. Everyone knows who he is. And man, we have 4 active welterweights with fights coming up now. Jeff Neal being the biggest and best. And then Razak, Judo Thunder's the man. Ramez Brahimaz making his debut the week before me. And then myself. So every time I go up there, it's some very hard work with some very tough guys.
Awesome. Yeah. So pushing you and you're pushing them, and it's just makes for a better performance to come, right?
Yeah, for sure.
So you got 10 UFC fights, 6 wins, you're 3-1 in your last 4. Just speak to your journey, and you got this big fight coming up here and get you to 7 wins. Just speak to your journey this far in the UFC.
Sure. I never really had any expectations. I always just enjoyed training so much. I liked the social aspect. I really liked the troubleshooting, the decision making with like physical consequences if you make the wrong decision, especially in striking. And I'll never forget, I would just like come in and train every single day. I lost a bunch of weight as a teenager. And one day my first coach was like, you train so much, why don't you compete? And I was like, I don't know, coach, you tell me. And I was like, sign me up. So I started doing jiu-jitsu tournaments, had some amateur kickboxing fights, and then one thing they'll do another. And I did my first amateur MMA fight. And this was back in like 2007, 2008. And in Texas, for whatever reason, pro-ams were not allowed. They weren't like legal from the TDLR. So the scene in Texas was like very demanding of a lot of amateurs to fill a full card and a lot of pros. So there were a lot of fights to be had. And it's funny, in amateur MMA in Texas, it's no different than fighting pro minus no elbows. So like we have little 4-ounce gloves on in a cage, fighting it out. So we had like a pretty mature scene early in the day. And like one thing led to another thing. I won a bunch of amateur fights, got to fight for an amateur title, won the amateur belt. Next logistics step was to go pro, went pro, had quite a bit of success, fought for the legacy belt and won the legacy belt, and still had no expectations to get to the UFC. And sure enough, they had called a couple weeks after I won that title, and took my UFC debut on just a couple weeks notice. I think it was less than 2 weeks notice. Still kind of banged up from that title fight, and again won that fight. And it was just, and even after the first contract, my striking coach, Matt Wall, one of my best friends, we've been training together since we were teenagers. We just never really had expectations. Made it to the first contract, made it to the second contract. Now I'm on the third contract. With a win, I'll sign for my 4th contract. It's just been so awesome. And it's all very much so dictated off like my love for training, my love for martial arts. So I wouldn't change that for the world. And just have so much fun every day training and teaching and traveling. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah, it's a great way to put it. And, on our podcast, we do offer like predictions and betting and stuff. So I have to throw in when, I watched a few of your fights before your debut, and you fought Kyle Noak, and I did throw a few bucks on the Great White, and thank you for that.
Hey, my man, I had some friends go to Vegas with me on that. One of them was a guy I do private lessons with. He's pretty well off, and he put a couple thousand on me, and I was like a 3.5 to 1 favorite. So he won some money. That was pretty cool too.
Yeah, that's awesome. So yeah, you fight Rhys McKee November 14th. Obviously, he had his debut on short notice against one of the biggest names in the sport in the last month or two here, right? The last couple months. So it's hard to really judge anything on that fight. But have you been able to check anything before? Do you know anything about him? What do you feel going into that fight?
Yeah, I do a tremendous amount of research. I just remember being 25 years old. I think he's 26 now, being in the UFC, and like I'm coming off a loss, and there's like no desire to train harder and win fights than coming off a loss. And I know the aggressive feeling of fighting in the UFC. So I know this dude's training hard. I know he's going to come out hard. But the UFC is no place for sympathy. I'm going to go in there and most certainly try to get a finish. And I've been training hard as ever. Every fight camp I've ever done has always been like almost over preparation. But at Fortis now, we have so many of the welterweights fighting. It's been very active. And I'm already in like tremendous shape. I was telling everyone already, I wish the fight was this weekend because I got to maintain this peak. But man, he's going to come out hard. But dude, I'm going to use my veteran experience on him and really try to put a finish out in the octagon.
Yeah, I was going to say that before about the 10 fights you have had to his one, that the experience factor's got to play into that. So what do you like to do after fights? So you got a training camp, you got the weight cut, you got the fight, and then afterwards, what's something you like to do to just relieve all the stress or the anxiety or whatever it may be after?
So usually I just like going back to my normal routine and teaching at the gym and then playing some Warzone when I'm at home. But my wife, I love her dearly. We've been married for 2 years. We got married in January of 2018, and I took a fight in March. And then we were going to go do our honeymoon, but I ended up taking another fight. And then for our 1-year anniversary, I had a fight in February. So I've been putting off our honeymoon for a little while now. We're actually going to St. Lucia the week after my fight to go to a nice resort, take some time off and actually celebrate. So that's a bit unique, but that I'm looking forward to that after this fight.
That's fantastic. I was going to ask you about family life. You mentioned that. Any plans for any kids, and what do you besides training and teaching, there any other hobbies that you like?
I love my wife dearly. She had 2 kids from previous marriage, so I have 2 step kids, and I love them dearly. Our son is in high school and he wrestles. This is I think 3rd year wrestling, and then we have a stepdaughter who'll be 12 soon, and she's been doing jiu-jitsu for like 7 years.
Nice.
And I she wants to like help us teach class, run the business, and thankfully business is good right now. The COVID freaked us out. We actually almost. I don't want to go into too much detail, but we had to have a conversation. We had to go have a conversation on what we were going to do if things didn't work out. But thankfully, things started to pick up, and it just made me really appreciate what I have here. And my hobbies are pretty simple. I like hanging out with my wife, training more than anything, watching UFC fights with my boys. But I do play a lot of Warzone. I don't know if that counts. But
yeah, that counts. That definitely counts.
I got almost 300 wins, and I know that's kind of goofy to brag on, but those wins are hard to get.
No, for sure. So our last segment between rounds, I'll ask you a question. There'll be a couple answers, okay?
Cool.
Favorite food to eat?
Good pad thai is hard to find. It's a good pad thai.
Favorite sport other than MMA?
Oh, I don't know. MMA, pass, boxing.
Okay. Favorite getaway spot in the United States?
Ooh, Denver, Colorado. Really cool spot.
Favorite country other than the States?
You know what? I fought in Calgary. I'm going to go with Japan. I fought in Japan once, and we had a blast. Made so many good friends. They were all so nice. Japan, number 1.
I felt like you were going to say Calgary, and I would have appreciated that being a Canadian.
Oh, man, Calgary was also the bomb. Calgary was super cool. There were some very scary homeless people. That was the only weird thing.
Good thing you didn't come to Hamilton then.
Yeah, but man, Calgary was so cool, clean, and like the sun was out until like 10 p.m. We got to walk down like Calgary's main like restaurant scene, and the mall was cool. We had a good time in Calgary.
Nice.
I feel like answering Canada wouldn't have been a fair answer though, because it's so close.
For sure. Favorite type of music?
Oh, that's easy. I actually have used my UFC cred to go backstage on some metal shows, but I'm super into like heavy metal.
Favorite band in heavy metal then?
Morono Rhys. I actually got to go visit them last time. I got to hang out backstage with them last time they came. Are you familiar with the band Morono Rhys?
I'm not, but my other good buddy on this podcast is a huge metal fan, so I'll have to tell it to him. I'm sure he knows about him.
Yeah, they sing mostly about like the voyage and like life and death of Vikings, which is a perfect analogy for what I feel like I do in the octagon.
Yeah, very good comparison. Favorite movie of all time?
Ooh, good question. I don't know. I'm going to answer a bad one. Army of Darkness with Bruce Campbell was my favorite since I was a kid. I don't know if you've ever seen that movie, but it's a super cheesy, like sci-fi horror film.
Maybe I'll have to see it. I haven't. Top 5 pound for pound fighters of all time, in your opinion?
Oh, Khabib, number 1. Love him. Man, Gaethje and T-Ferg are the best. Masvidal, a huge fan of him. And I'm going to go with Derek Lewis because I'm proud of being from Houston and I love seeing how much he's accomplished.
Nice. So just on that, who do you got this weekend in the main event, and who do you got between Lewis and Blades?
Man, again, so Gaethje, can he land the strikes? Can he deal with Khabib's wrestling? We'll see. Like, if Gaethje's able to win, that just speaks volumes of his ability and what he's able to achieve. Man, I secretly want to see Khabib get to 30-0 because no one has done that. But I also don't know, man. I feel bad, rooting for either guy because I want both of them to win. I know that doesn't happen. So no matter the outcome, that one's fun. And then I got to root for Derek Lewis. He's Houston's crown jewel. But Blades take guys down. But Derek's an anomaly. His grappling and wrestling, it shouldn't work as well as it does, but it does. And he wins fights. He's got the most knockouts in UFC heavyweight history. So I gotta take D-Lou on that one.
I like that, and I kind of hope that Khabib has a chance at 30-0 because we believe that if he beats Gaethje, then they're going to match him up with GSP. We really believe that, and who would not want to watch that?
You know what? I think the Gaethje fight for Khabib is harder than GSP because like GSP's jab is good, but I don't think he out wrestles Khabib, and I don't think he's. So, I think Gaethje's a genuine threat with his durability and his power. So
I agree with that about Gaethje, but I'll say one thing. Nobody's got I would just say the IQ about GSP. His fight IQ is top notch. But we'll see. We'll see what happens. And last one, Morono or McKee on November 14th, and how?
You know what? I would risk and bet my life that I would win every single fight. And when that doesn't happen, it's like my reality is stripped from me. But I've said this in every interview since I've began fighting. My goal is always to knock somebody out in the fight. I'm going to stand and throw down. And I've worked hard and I've fixed the changes I need to make since my last fight. I'm going to win the fight. Most certainly, if it's my choice, by knockout. But I always plan on a 3rd round finish. So if it goes past the first, I'm not out of my element, but I'm ready for a war, for sure.
Yeah, and you definitely do fight like that, and that's why we're big fans of you. Any sponsors, shout-outs, or social media to finish up?
Man, just my MMA team, Fortis MMA. Our coach, Coach Safe, is just such an incredible leader. I can't put to words, how much he's done for me, and just having a general to like send me into battle. I appreciate them more than anything. And then of course my students and my family at Gracie Baja the Woodlands. I wouldn't want to do this without either of my teams.
Yeah, we want to appreciate you taking the time to talk with us today. Hope that you get that win so that you can enjoy that time with your wife away, that much deserved. And Rhys McKee is your opponent on November 14th. Alex, the Great White Morono, thanks so much for coming on Hooks in MMA.
Cool, thank you so much.
No problem. Good luck. Thanks. Next up on the Hooks in MMA podcast, we're lucky to have a UFC fighter. He just made his debut recently. He's got an 11-3 record, and he's a welterweight fighter, and he's got a big fight coming up soon. Rhys McKee, how's it going today?
Yeah, I'm good, man. Thanks for having me on the show. Appreciate it.
No problem. We're looking forward to your next fight here. So you're from Northern Ireland. You currently train out of there. What kind of hobbies and stuff did you have growing up, and what got you into MMA?
Yeah, hobbies kind of growing up. It was just standard kind of schoolboy in Northern Ireland. Likes football, likes to try to fight and do all this stuff. But I found MMA through football. I was trying to get fitter for the pre-season. And from there, I got hooked in MMA and never went back to the football. So that was how I got started and kept at it.
What position did you play in football?
Well, it was soccer, so I would have played right wing or left wing. But I wasn't very good, so I found myself on the sub bench quite a bit.
Yeah, I played rugby my whole life, and I just recently started playing soccer. I had too many head injuries in rugby, so I've
Soccer's a bit safer.
yeah, a little bit. Yeah. So what gym are you currently training out of? Who are your coaches and some of your training partners that push you every day?
Yeah, so I train in Next Generation. We're also affiliated with Chris Brennan's gym, which is actually in Texas. Head coach is Rodney Moore, who's anybody from the Europe will know. Training partners such as Norman Park, who was in the UFC, and we have some Bellator guys and Cage Warriors guys, and we have actually a real handful of like high level amateur fighters that are just breaking on the pro scene, but. We have a gym of killers, hungry people. And, I know that the state-of-the-art thing from Ireland is they're born to fight, but, we have a gym full of people that are ready to fight anytime. So it's good.
It's Storm and Norman Park, right?
Yeah, correct. Yeah, correct.
Yeah, I remember watching him a few times, and I think guy that fought last weekend, Gamrot, fought him a few times, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, they had the trilogy fight. I was actually in the corner for one of them. They had a crazy romance, so to speak. So, but Norman's a good guy, and he's been around since I was like 14, 15 in the gym, and he's always helped.
Yeah, good guy to look up to. Yeah, so you're 11-3. Just talk about your experience. I think you fought in Bama and Cage Warriors, and that got you to sign with the UFC. So just your experience.
Yeah, so I had a like a fast forwarded pro career. Like from my pro debut in Bama was 7 days notice. I fought veterans. I went 5-0 with Bama. I won the British title and lost it in the process. Had a great career with Bama. Won their world title, and then they folded as a promotion. I jumped over to Cage Warriors because my goal was to get to the UFC, and anybody in Europe and in the world knows Cage Warriors is the best place to do that. So I gathered 3 quick wins together and was due to fight for the title when the phone rang and asked me to step in and fight Island. So a lot of fights and in a relatively short period of time, just over 5 years. But I wouldn't change anything. It's been a fantastic journey, and I've always been treated well and enjoyed where I fought.
Awesome. Yeah, I know when COVID and all that stuff happened, and there wasn't very many sports going on. Cage Warriors did have one event that I watched, so that was good to watch that. Yeah. So you're
due to fight.
What was that? Sorry.
I was actually due to fight on their on their show, and then I got pulled off it. So all for a good cause, though.
Yeah, it worked out. So you fought Khamzat Chimaev for your debut. Just how many days or weeks or whatever notice do you have going into that? And what did you besides the actual result, what did you get from that first experience?
Yeah, well, my manager rung me, and it was 6 days before the fight. So 6 days notice. Not making excuses. Like, obviously the COVID restrictions, we weren't wrestling, we weren't grappling, we were doing bits and pieces of striking. I was fit, but whatever. Like the experience and all, like it was fantastic. It was good to get me in the door. I was going there to win the fight. Khamzat's a hell of a competitor. But I think that's definitely a fight I would like to run back down the line with ideal circumstances. I just think I pulled the short straw, but listen, I learned a lot. I enjoyed my experience. I had a great time, and on to the next one, so to speak.
Yeah, you got your feet wet, but you got a big fight on November 14th coming up. Alex Morono. What do you know about him, and how do you feel going into that?
Yeah, I love this fight a lot. I actually got the text on my birthday about this fight, so it was like a great birthday present because I was preparing to fight in Fight Island again, and then so I was already 6 weeks into training camp, and then they text me and I had another 8 weeks or something like that. So crazy amount of time prep for this. It's been fantastic. Morono, he's experienced. He's been in the UFC. I think he's 10 fights in the UFC, a winning record in the UFC. It's everything I want. I didn't want to fight a UFC debut. I didn't want to fight someone with 2 fights. So I think the way I look at it, I take it as a compliment from the UFC. They know the caliber I am. They know the guys that I'm capable of beating and putting me in there with. So, this fight stylistically is ideal for me, and November 14th is a chance for me to show that.
Yeah, we're looking forward to that. What do you like to do after fights once you put in a full training camp and you get to the actual weigh-ins and the fight? What do you do after to celebrate?
Yeah, like I have a lot going on. I own a gym in Northern Ireland too, so I'm busy with that. I have a dog, I have a girlfriend, so I just lie low, to be honest. Like the immediate plans after a fight is always to get a nice burger and something like that and just relax. But I don't have a flamboyant lifestyle where I need to party or nothing like that. You'll find me in the same places, just a bit more relaxed.
And do you have any like hobbies you do on the side other than training or fighting?
Hobbies, it's either fighting, fitness, or dog walking. That's really it. I don't have any not really, just relaxed and recover most of the time.
Yeah, no worries.
Over time, you have no time for too many hobbies.
Yeah. Well, you're putting in the work, right? So it's going to pay off for you, that's for sure. Our last segment's between rounds, so I'm going to ask you a question. There'll be a couple different answers, okay?
Yeah.
Your favorite food to eat?
Ooh, pizza.
Favorite sport other than MMA?
Ooh, boxing.
If someone were to come to Ireland, what's like your favorite getaway spot that they must see?
Ooh, great question. The coast. We have a nice coastline where you can. Yeah, it's nice and scenic.
Favorite country in the world other than Ireland?
I love America.
Yeah. Favorite type of music?
Country and western.
Yeah. Do you have a favorite artist?
Yeah, I like Morgan Wallen or Luke Combs. They're my guys at the moment. Josh Turner. I like Josh Turner as well.
Those are a couple of my favorites, so I like that. We got that in common. Favorite movie of all time?
Ooh, Kickboxer.
Who's in your top 5 pound-for-pound fighters of all time? It doesn't have to be in order.
Top 5. Adesanya, John Jones, GSP, Khabib, and McGregor.
If Khabib beats Gaethje this weekend and Khabib fights GSP, who do you like in that matchup?
I think Khabib wins it because of the timing, but 5 years ago, maybe different for GSP or more. It's hard to go against GSP. A prime GSP, I think, beats anyone.
November 14th against Alex Morono. Who wins that one and how?
Me, second round TKO. Second round TKO. Just chipping away at him. An break.
Any sponsor shoutouts or social media to finish up?
Yeah, listen, all my sponsors are on socials. So at Rhys McKee MMA, and you'll find all my sponsors. I try and stay loyal and give them shout outs there, because if I do it here, then I forget about one and I get in trouble. So check out my social media for all that good stuff. Awesome.
So November 14th against Alex Morono. Really happy to have Rhys Skeletor, McKee on today. We really appreciate your time. This is Hooks in MMA. Good luck.
Thank you, man.
Falling in and out of love, in and out of love with you. Falling in and out of love, in and out of love with you. Falling in and out of love, in and out of love with you. Falling in and out of love, yeah.